Um, there we go. Thank you all for joining our junior planning night. We really appreciate everyone who's here or viewing the video later on. Junior year is important. Senior year is important. It will fly by, and we want to make sure that your students are as prepared as possible to, exit Spanish River and put their best foot forward wherever they want to be next, whether that's college or the military or a trade school. So we really appreciate that you're here offering some, buying into our counseling department to make sure that they are ready. So, like I said before, if you have any questions throughout the presentation, please feel free to put them in the chat. Our counselors will be on hand to answer any questions they have. So speaking of our counselors, they're here for us tonight. We have Miss Solid, who has letters A through D. Miss Solid, if you just want to unmute and say hello.
Hello.
And then we have Miss Kalman on here, who is letters L through Q, if you want to.
Hi.
And then I have letters R through Z. So I'm sure if you're one of mine, we've emailed many times already. Miss Abramowitz is also on the chat as well, and she is the counselor to all of our ELL students.
Hello, welcome.
And then Miss Riggle is also on the line, and she is our college and career counselor. So definitely an important person that you should know and feel free to contact, and she is online as well.
Hi, everyone.
So our email addresses are there for you. Please feel free to contact us if you ever need anything. Mrs. Loyacona is the counselor for letters E through K. And unfortunately, she couldn't be here tonight, but she is also very responsive to email. But feel free to reach out to any of us. We're happy to help you guys. So kind of just get started. An important part of our job is to make sure that your student graduates. Okay, so just to go over some graduation requirements, we gave this presentation to them last week when we talked about course selection, so they know that they are choosing all the classes that will meet their graduation requirements, but we want to make sure you know as well. In order to graduate, they need a GPA of at least a 2.0. That's a C average in all of their classes. If they're currently right now not at a 2.0, they need to be earning A's and B's in their classes to make sure they bring it up so it's a 2.0 by the time they graduate. They also need 20 hours of community service, which we would have loved to have them in by now. They just need to put their hours on a form, which is available to them on Silver Suite or Blue Suite, or it's also online on the school website. They just need to fill that form out, take a picture of it, and email it to Mrs. Gorin so she can put it in the system. They also need to take an online class. That could be through FLVS, that could be a dual enrollment class that was done online, or if they have their ACE diploma, that requirement is waived. But they do need to take a class online. Being at home due to COVID did not count as an online class, so just be aware of that. They also need to pass 2 tests for graduation. They needed to pass their 10th grade reading FSA and their Algebra 1 EOC. If they haven't met that testing requirement yet, they've been doing retakes all this year. We have the school day SAT next week, March 1st. And they could meet those scores through what's called a concordant score, meaning if they score a certain score on their reading and writing portion of their SAT, on their math portion of the SAT, that will fulfill that requirement. And then finally, they need 24 credits in certain areas. Basically, they need 4 English, 4 math, 3 social studies, 3 science, 1 PE, personal fitness, 1 practical fine arts, and 8 elective credits. And just to sort of break that down a little bit further, so you have it all listed out, the 4 years of English, English 1, 2, 3, 4, or maybe they did, ACE General Paper, then ACE English Language, then ACE Lit or AP Lang, just their 4 years of English. Every year they should have been in an English class. They need 4 math credits. 1 had to be Algebra 1, the other had to be geometry, and then 2 more years of math. If they're looking to be college bound, they should really have Algebra 2 depending on their major. Pre-calc, that calc route is also going to be important depending if they want to go into like the STEM field. Your 3 science credits, one of them has to be biology, and the other one has to be a physical science, whether that was physical science they took freshman year, or if they took chemistry last year or this year, and one elective in science. That could be ACE Marine, could be anatomy and physiology, it could be environmental science. We have a lot of options here. They need their 3 social studies credit. They need world history, which they either took sophomore year or they might have taken ACE International freshman year. They need to take US history, which they should be in right now. And then as a senior, they will be taking government and economics. Those are semester-long classes. That 1 credit of performing or practical arts, so art, music, theater, speech, debate, certain business classes classify as a performing practical art. And if you look on SIS and look on the graduation requirements screen, you'll see it all listed out. And if there's a little green check mark, it means that they've fulfilled that credit. So they're good to go. So you'll be able to see, ooh, are they still missing that? They need a half credit of personal fitness and a half credit of PE. Together, they might have taken what's called HOPE on FLVS, that stands for Health Opportunities Through Physical Education. That's one that a lot of seniors might not have. They might have taken a year of basketball or a year of weight training and they think, oh, I have my PE credit, but that actually only counts for the half credit of PE. They still need that half credit of personal fitness. So some of those might slip by. So definitely take a check out that graduation requirements screen and see if they've met that. If they are missing their half credit of personal fitness, they can take it on FLVS. They can complete it through a dual enrollment class. If they've participated in a JV or varsity sport for 2 years, they can get what's called a PE waiver. They just need to email us so that we can give it to them. So they can have you sign off on it and the coach sign off on it, turn it into us. We can waive them from that credit. That credit also can be waived if they earn their ACE diploma. Same thing with the performing practical arts credit. That could also be waived with their ACE diploma. So the ACE diploma has a lot of benefits. And then finally, just 8 electives. So all of that totals up to 24 credits. And that's their basic graduation requirements. Okay, so next we're moving on to community service.
Okay, so students need at least 20 hours of community service in order to graduate high school, and they must be done at a nonprofit organization such as church, synagogue, the library, any animal shelters. We have a lot of opportunities available on the Spanish Royal website. They're listed there. As soon as we have anything coming up, we go ahead and list it there. We also have the form on the website. They must put it on the community service form. After they fill it out, they have someone sign it wherever they go and get the community service hours done with. After it's filled out, they'll go ahead and take a picture, scan it, and they'll email it to Mrs. Gorn, and her email is also on the community service form. Just so you know, it's mara.gorn@palmbeachschools.org. And for all of our juniors, they should have turned that in December 1st. If they have not, please make sure they're starting to work on this. And you can also check if they have the hours in SIS in that grad screen that Ms. Gardner was talking about. So minimum 20 for graduation purposes, but the more they do, the better it is. Ms. Gardner, if you can go to the next slide. So for Bright Future Scholarship, if they are going to have the 75%, they should have 75 community service hours. For the 100%, it should be 100 hours of community service. And remember that most scholarships, most colleges want to see a GPA of 3.5 and higher. If you do not know what the Bright Future Scholarship is, it's basically a scholarship offered to all of our 12th graders here. If they will stay in a Florida school, they have to have certain GPA scores. They're going to have certain test scores along with community service hours. And this is funded by the Florida Lotto. For grade forgiveness, so any student who has earned a D or an F at the semester grade, not the quarter grades, the semester grades, they could go ahead and retake the class either through Florida Virtual School or through the Ingenuity Credit Lab, which is a study hall class that we have that we offer at school. The course remains on the transcript. The grade forgiveness removes the lower grade from the GPA, although the two classes will still show in their transcript. The one that they got a D or F will be removed from the GPA, and the new letter grade they will receive, hopefully A or B, will go into the GPA. So remember, if they have any D's or F, at the semester grade level though.
I'm coming. There we go. Okay, so two big things. Your juniors had an opportunity to take the PSAT again in December. And if not, no big deal. They're taking their school day next Wednesday, which is great. So the district has every junior take an SAT for free. It's a good baseline as well as the PSAT they took. They can, which can set a base mark moving forward. And there's still at least 3 more opportunities to take it again prior to, well, June's the last before we take it again in August. End of August, College Board will have at least 1 date set. So there's at least 4 more opportunities if the SAT is the test for your student, because ACT, SAT, anyways, I'll let you go to the next slide because I'm talking ahead. I'm sorry. Okay, so sticking with the PSAT and the SAT first, when they took the SAT, they had a code which will allow them to access My College Quick Start on the College Board website. They can do it anyway, even if they didn't get that code. It's just a little more complicated, but there is a ton of information on the College Board website, and we really encourage the students to do this. There's all kinds of information about colleges, applying for scholarships, how to better your scores. It is a wealth of information provided through College Board. And using Khan Academy, I can't speak enough to this. It's a great free resource. They could have linked their PSAT scores. When they take this SAT, they can link that score. Khan Academy has a partnership with College Board, and what they can do is they link them and they get a personalized tutorial just for them. And they focus on what they did not get correct. They still work on what they got right, but they spend more time working on what they did not get correct on the test. They get practice tests and they give them a timeline. So I would put in Janet Kalman is going to take her next SAT June 1st. And they would work back from there, and they would develop a timeline for me to practice from now until June 1st to improve my scores. It's really a great program, and there's a lot of data showing they've had great success with it. So the other test, the test SAT, it's reading, math, and writing sections, okay? And the maximum score on each of the 2 sections is 800. So that's the basis for it, and the website's collegeboard.org. Oh, sorry. And then the other test that some students choose, because some have a preference for one over the other, is the ACT test. And each section here is a 36. And the reason why some students may prefer this test, generally is what I get from my students, is because the science is separated out on this test, right? Where on the SAT, they incorporate the science questions generally into other portions of the test. So again, that is a reason why some students may prefer using the ACT. And it's pretty interesting to see when students take the free one and take one ACT, you can look at them and see which test really is better for them, and then go from there with which test you think would be best for your student. And again, they should talk to their counselors and talk with you about which is their better option for the test. Okay, but again, they divide it into these separate sections like you see listed here. So it really is important. So if you're not a great science student, that's okay, because you could really do strong on the other sections. All right, so Bright Futures, Ms. Abramowitz alluded to this earlier. All right, so again, students getting the ACE diploma, long as they get their 7 points for the classes and the exams, they'll get automatic Bright Futures, long as they get their 100 community service hours in. But you can still earn Bright Futures the old-fashioned way, right? So 100%, you have to have 16 credits. It's 4 years of math, 4 years of English, 3 years of science, 3 years of social studies, 2 years of a world language. So those are all things you need to go to a four-year college anyway, right? You have to have your weighted GPA must be a 3.5. For next year's, for your students, it'll have to be a 29 on the ACT or a 1340 on the SAT, the 100 community service hours. And that maintain at the bottom means once they're in college, to continue to get the money, they must maintain a GPA of 3.0, okay? And then the medallion, that's 75%, same credits, 4 math, 4 English, 3 science, 3 social studies, 2 years of a world language. The weighted GPA from high school has to be a 3.0, the 25 on the ACT, the 1210 on the SAT, 75 community service hours, and maintain a 2.75. Don't move this slide yet, Ms. Garney. So I know there's been a lot of this because the state and the district, everybody's decided, yes, and I don't, they can use work hours to qualify for Bright Futures, but they still have to do 20 true community service hours for their graduation requirement. That's very important to understand, because it's led to a little bit of confusion, but I want to make that clear here. They can use, so they can get their 100 community service hours for Bright Futures with 100 work hours, and then they have to get their, still have to get their 20 community service hours for their graduation requirement. And those must be true community service hours where they work at a non-for-profit organization. Okay. And we have all that information posted on our website, but they can also talk to their guidance counselors. Okay, Ms. Garney, thank you. All right, so this is in there, this matrix, and I suggest you go back and look at this once the presentation is posted to our school website. Every year we go and meet with the 12 state universities, and this is the median range for what they're looking for. So, all right, since UF is first, I'll use that as my example. All right, so their acceptances were an HPA between a 4.4 and a 4.7. Their SAT was between a 1350 and a 1480, or their ACT was between a 30 and a 34. So that means the mid-range is, that's where the majority of the middle range of students were accepted. And then they took some below and obviously some above. And you can see all 12 state universities are listed there, but I would take the time to go back once we post this, and you can look at more details. And this changes every year, I just want you to know. So next September, when we go to our next state university meeting, we will get new details on all of this information. But it's a good mid-range to see, and we tell the students to look at all of this information as they go along. So the timeline for our juniors, okay, February, March, they're preparing, registering, they're taking their SAT. There's time to take both tests between now and the end of school. The last dates for both of them are the beginning of June before we come back in August, and then there'll be dates in August. Check out colleges. We tell them to schedule some college visits, go out, especially because it's the summer between their junior and senior year. It's important to take time and check that out and go plan some visits while you have summer vacation. Look at some careers. There's different career assessments. FloridaShines.org is a great resource to look at different careers. You can look at all the state universities on there. You can explore their degree options, all kinds of different, you can take virtual tours of the campuses on there as well. And then they're meeting with us to look at their senior level courses. Okay. And then in April and May, they'll continue with taking that. They'll look at their college options. And then what'll happen is, again, things like Common App Coalition, all of that stuff, they start looking at it, but really none of that starts working until the end of August and September. So really that's when their whole process gets going for them. So it really is important that, but they should like go on and look at that. Common App is the big site that most students use, honestly, because they can complete one application for 8 different colleges. There's over 1,000 colleges that use that one common application. Then they only have to do the essays separate, specific to the different colleges, whatever they require. So it's a really nice feature instead of, like in the old days. So June and July, you look at your list of colleges, you're working on your essays, and then August, September, you start applying to the colleges. And again, we'll talk to them about teacher recommendations and all of that, because at the beginning of September or the end of August, depending on when we plan it, we go in and meet with every senior class, and we sit down and meet one-on-one with all of your students, and they get a firm packet with a lot of information in so that they know what they're doing for their senior year. I just want to say, so someone has their hand raised. Do we want to take questions now or what, Ms. Scarney, or are we waiting till the end? I see someone has a hand raised, so I don't want to be bad and do anything wrong.
No, we're going to wait till the end for questions.
Okay.
If you have a question, you can put it in the chat and we're kind of answering them as we go along.
Okay. Okay.
All right, so when it comes to the college admissions criteria, colleges will consider a lot of different factors. Number one being, of course, their transcript and their academic record. So not only do schools look at things like the GPA or the HPA and grades, but they also want to see what kinds of classes did students take. They want to know if they took honors classes, advanced AP classes or ACE classes, or if they took dual enrollment. All of that will be available on the transcript, so they will take that into consideration as well. The other thing, of course, they're looking at our test scores, being the SAT or the ACT. Schools will take either or, and most of them will super score, meaning they will take the highest scores from each section. A lot of schools will also look for essays. So essays are really the students' opportunity to say more about themselves. It's their opportunity to be a little more personable and show who they are as a person, and not just what they are on paper as far as grades and test scores. So I always encourage students to really think about their essay topic, write something meaningful that will give the admissions officers something to think about, and just let them know a little bit more about themselves. I am always happy. I'm the college counselor, so I'm always happy to review essays with students, proofread or read over them if they have any questions or just need someone to look through their essay with them. I'm happy to do that. The other thing that a lot of schools will look for, especially the out-of-state or the private schools, they will look for a recommendation. So they would like to see recommendations from teachers to see how students did academically. Junior year is really a great time to start thinking about when they should, who they should ask for those recommendation letters. I suggest that juniors, by the time they leave for summer vacation, that they reach out to at least one teacher and ask for a recommendation letter. That gives the teacher plenty of time to work on that recommendation letter. They have all summer, in fact, to work on it. What we don't want to happen is a student asks for a letter on October 30th when it's due November 1st. That student probably isn't going to get a very good recommendation letter if they get one at all from that teacher. So asking for it in May or June really gives the teacher plenty of opportunity to write a really good letter for that student. Counselors also will write letters as well, especially for common applications. That usually requires a counselor letter as well. So counselors are happy to do that too. The other thing colleges will look at is a resume. So a resume is what, colleges want to see that students did something other than just go to class, get good grades. They want to see what they did outside of that class time. So this can be anything really. It can be participating in sports, either in school or in the community. It could be participating in clubs or honor societies. If they had a job, that counts. If they did volunteer work, that counts. And not only do they just want to see what activities the student did, but they also would love to see leadership. So not only was the student involved in, let's say, environmental club, but maybe they were also president or vice president. Or if they did a lot of community service work, but not only did they volunteer a lot, but they helped to organize a fundraising event, something along those lines. Colleges really love to see that students went that extra step and not only just participated in clubs and things like that, but that they took on that leadership role and really contributed to the club. You can also include any kind of special talents. If the student is a great singer, or if they were in band and maybe they play band as a hobby at home, they would consider all of those things. Now is also a good time to start working on this resume and thinking back over the past couple of years and reflect on what the student has done. A lot of times students forget things they did freshman year, sophomore year, so it's really a good time to start thinking about all those things. They would also consider any kind of achievements students have earned, whether it's honor roll or outstanding science student, or if they won a DECA competition or a HOSA competition. All of those are great things to include on a resume as well. All right, so of course, grades and test scores really drive the college admissions process. Junior year grades are really the last chance that students have to demonstrate their academic abilities to colleges. So this semester is really important for juniors because it's really the last set of grades that are going to go onto their transcripts. Students will hopefully, the goal is to apply to colleges early, so early in the fall. So when they're applying to colleges in the fall, they might not even have first quarter grades in yet. They probably won't have first semester grades in yet. So really, grades that they're earning now are probably the last grades that are going to be seen on the transcript. So of course, even though colleges might not see their senior year grades right away, they will see what classes students are taking. So it's really important to think about the senior year schedule. Colleges still want to see that students are taking a rigorous course load. They don't want to see that they slack off senior year. So I think, as Ms. Garney mentioned in the beginning, just because they have met their credits for, say, math or science already, we would still encourage students to take math and a science senior year because they want to continue taking those academic courses every year. We just did course selection, so students should have picked out their courses for next year. They will have opportunities to make changes to that, so I would encourage you all to talk to your students and see what they signed up for if you haven't already. And then again, they'll have opportunities to make corrections to that if anything comes up. As I said, now is a great time to get started on writing that resume, jotting down things that students have done over the past few years. Also a good time to start brainstorming ideas for essay topics. As far as college planning, it's the perfect time to start thinking about what colleges students are interested in, start narrowing down the list of schools they want to apply to. If it's possible, it's great to actually go visit those colleges, check out the campuses. Of course, that's not always possible to travel so many places. A lot of schools do offer virtual visits or virtual tours you can do through their websites. And we do have a lot of schools that will come visit us. So students have the opportunity to sign up for those visits and speak to those admissions officers and representatives for individual schools as well. And of course, we always tell students to stay open to all possibilities. You don't want to narrow down any possibilities at this time and really just keep your options open. So we know this is a really overwhelming time, and it's a really overwhelming process. But don't worry, we're all here to help you. If you have questions throughout this whole process, please feel free to reach out to any of us. We're here to help you. Again, this presentation will be posted online so that you can access it. And we have some additional resources for you here. Of course, our school website is great for a lot of information. Also, sites like College Board have a lot of information about to help research colleges. There are some other links here for scholarship, financial aid, FAFSA information that will be useful, especially next year. We also have, in addition to the school website, we do have some social media pages for the guidance team, and then specifically for college counseling and college planning. So if you're on social media, we would encourage you to follow us just to get those updates regularly. Students are also able to join the college Google Classroom, College Counseling Google Classroom. The code is on the screen there. That is how they can sign up for those college visits and how they can access all the scholarship information as it's put out.
Okay, so thank you so much for paying attention. I hope we were able to answer most of your questions in the chat. I'm going to stop the recording now, and then, you know, once we're stopped recording, feel free, you guys can raise your hands and unmute, and we can hopefully answer some questions for you then as well.